everyone, this is Sarah Kaki and Jeanette Soltis from Atlanta Divorce Law Group. Today we wanted to talk to you about grandparent rights in Georgia. This is a topic that's very dear to our hearts because we represent some wonderful grandparents out there that we've had some very successful outcomes for, but those can be pretty tough cases at times because it's not that black and white, and Jeanette's going to help break it down for us, talk about what grandparents' rights are in Georgia and when it's appropriate for them to intervene, and really what are their chances of success and not causing more problems in a child's life that already has probably gone through quite a bit. So Jeanette, in Georgia, what does the Georgia statute say about grandparents' rights?
So grandparents' rights are pretty limited in Georgia. There is one statute that allows a grandparent to either intervene in a case or file their own case to seek visitation with their grandchildren, but it cannot be in a situation where the parents are still married and that's an intact relationship. So if the parents are divorcing, or there's another custody case going on, or even an adoption that has been filed, grandparents can intervene, but this statute allows them just to seek visitation rights. And another hurdle in that is that the burden of proof is pretty high as far as what they need to prove to get those visitation rights. They actually have to show that it would be harmful to the child if these were not granted. So what happens often is it's a grandparent who hasn't had a relationship with a grandchild, and they're not going to be able to meet that burden because, if the child's never known them, then it's not going to be harmful if there's not visitation. So that's a situation where there's a grandparent who's had a relationship, they've been around frequently, and they want to be able to continue that relationship, and it would really harm the child if that relationship wasn't continued. There also are statutes that will allow a grandparent to file for custody, but it's not a specific grandparent statute. There's a relative statute that allows close relatives, which includes a grandparent, to file and ask for custody of a child. But basically they have to show that the parents are unfit to care for the child and that it's in the child's best interest. Then there's a route through juvenile court where grandparents, or really anyone else, can file a petition that the children are dependent and go through the juvenile court route. And then there's another route, which is through probate courts. And this is often the best route if the parents are willing to consent to it. And it's a pretty simple process. If the parents are willing to consent, they can sign some documents, a petition's filed, and it's called a guardianship, and it's through the probate court. So grandparents' rights and grandparent cases are difficult in the sense that there are a number of routes to take. There are positives and negatives, and it depends so much on the specific facts of your situation. So it's really best to just let your attorney go through all of the specifics of your situation and then brainstorm and come up with the best strategy for your family.
And I think that a lot of the grandparents that we see, they really just want to be proactive.
Yeah.
They're in a situation where they've received guardianship of the child. Maybe the child was a very young age where the court handed over the guardianship, temporary guardianship, over to the grandparents till the parents got their act together, whether they were they're in jail or they're going through drug rehab, what have you. The grandparents have become more or less all the parents that this child has known. We've represented grandparents that are the classroom parents of the school. They're involved in PTO. They are the soccer coach. And they've created as much of a normalcy as they can for a child who has not been raised by their own parents. And now their grandparents are getting nervous because this child for the past 5 or 6 years has never seen their parent, has been under the care of, and maybe they've seen their parent, but not on a consistent basis. They've been under the care of the grandparents, and they're now getting concerned that at any minute, this parent that will be released out of jail or that will come out of rehab will want to just step in and swoop the child away and basically turn that child's life upside down and get rid of all that stability that's been created. What can those grandparents do?
So, first it's important to recognize that courts really do favor the biological parents. That if there's a way to reunify a child with a biological parent, that typically that's the goal. it's important for grandparents to be proactive and hire an attorney early on. Like, I see a lot of situations where there are verbal agreements where a grandparent basically is raising a grandchild, but it's all by verbal agreement.
Right.
And you have to be so careful about filing your case when the timing is right and you're most likely to prevail in getting an actual custody order. And then when you get the actual custody order, there can be terms specified in there as to what the biological parent needs to do to regain custody, or can outline specifics regarding visitation. There can be things in there about they must complete a drug rehab program. They need to have clean drug screens for a certain amount of time. They need to have stable employment and stable housing. It can define stable housing. So really the best thing is to be proactive and come to an attorney early on to be able to make sure we can get all of those requirements in place. Because if you wait until the parent starts getting their act together, or you're doing something verbally and the parent already has gotten their act together, then that's a much more precarious situation. And it is possible that a parent could swoop in and quickly regain their rights to as the primary custodian of the child, and they might not be as stable as we would really want them to be.
Right. And Jeanette, can you also break down for us the difference between grandparents having guardianship over the child versus outright adopting the child?
Yeah. So it is possible for a relative to adopt a child, and a grandparent is considered one of the relatives for the relative adoption. A relative adoption is, it can be pretty difficult if there aren't extreme circumstances either. And sometimes parents consent, and there are people who have a child and have enough clarity to realize that they cannot parent this child, and that they're not likely to get their act together, and they're willing to sign documents agreeing to the adoption. But it's also important to understand that if there's a known biological father who, even if he's not in the picture, if he's known, then notice has to be given to him. And I have seen situations where a biological father will come out of the woodwork and end up fighting for custody when he finds out that termination of parental rights is a possibility. Right. So that's always a very careful consideration that a grandparent needs to make, is trying to move forward with adoption, going to rock the boat.
Yeah.
But there are situations where both parents, it's been such an extreme situation where they've completely abandoned the kids. There's, serious drug issues, and it's gone on for long enough that it is unlikely that either parent at that time is going to be able to come in and show that they're fit and able to parent the children. So it's appropriate.
And so timing is a very big deal.
Timing is extremely important in grandparent cases. Right.
Making sure you're doing it at a time where you're not rocking the boat yet is the most opportune time to move forward.
Yeah.
Well, like Jeanette said, grandparent rights are pretty tough in Georgia. However, we've had some great success with them, so they're very close to our heart, and we really relate to the grandparents out there who are raising their grandchildren like their own children, and doing it all under the stress of knowing that there may be causing some tension in the relationship with their own child, and that their own child may come back and take these children away. So please do seek out legal counsel if you are a grandparent out there who has these concerns. The rules are pretty complicated, and it's very case-by-case basis. Look forward to helping you some more with it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.
Thank you.